It was one of the most brutal and sensational crimes to ever shake Beverly Hills. A wealthy couple gunned down in their own home, their bodies mutilated beyond recognition, and no sign of forced injury. The killers weren't masked intruders, they were their sons. The Menendez brothers became national villains, symbols of greed, entitlement, and cold-blooded murder. But beneath the surface was a darker, more complicated story, one that the world chose to ignore. And now, over 3 decades later, new developments could change everything. Welcome to the Friday Night Campfire Stories. My name is Rob, and I will be your host for this evening. Every crime has 2 stories, the one they tell you, and the one that slips through the cracks. Here, we dig deeper. We chase the overlooked clues, the forgotten testimonies, and the disturbing details that never made headlines. Because the truth doesn't always come gift-wrapped in a verdict. Sometimes it takes decades to surface, and when it does, it changes everything. This is Far from Fiction. To outsiders, the Menendez family had it all. Wealth, status, a picture-perfect life behind the gates of their Beverly Hills mansion. José Menendez was a self-made success story. Born in Havana, Cuba, he came to the U.S. with nothing. By the 1980s, he was a powerful entertainment executive, ruthless in business, and determined to mold his sons into champions no matter the cost. Kitty Menendez, once a school teacher, had given up her career to support her family. But behind closed doors, those closest to the Menendezes say Kitty's world was shrinking, plagued by depression, pills, and emotional instability. Their sons, Lyle and Erik, grew up under constant pressure. Lyle, the older, more outgoing of the two, was charismatic, but often in trouble. Erik, the shy young brother, was a gifted tennis player who struggled with anxiety and self-doubt. On the surface, they were the golden sons of Beverly Hills, but beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to form. Cracks that would later become gaping wounds in court testimonies. Claims of manipulation, domination, and a kind of trauma no one wants to believe happens in a home like this. Whether you believe them or not, the Menendez brothers were not just raised in privilege, they were raised in pressure, and for them, something was about to snap. It was a quiet Sunday evening in Beverly Hills. Inside the Menendez home, José and Kitty had settled for the night. They were watching a movie, The Spy Who Loved Me, in the family room, completely unaware that their final moments were ticking away. At approximately 10:30 p.m., the peace shattered. Lyle and Erik Menendez walked into the room armed with 2 12-gauge shotguns. What happened next was nothing short of brutal. José Menendez was shot first, point blank in the back of the head. Kitty, startled, panicked, tried to flee, but was chased down. She was shot multiple times. The final shots came from close range, leaving her face nearly unrecognizable. The brothers didn't flee in panic. They didn't hide. They drove calmly to the movies and bought 2 tickets for the movie Batman. And they even kept the stubs, an alibi in hand before the blood on their clothes was dry. When police arrived, the crime scene was shocking. No forced entry, no signs of a break-in, but what stood out most was the 911 call.
Beverly Hills emergency.
Yes, police.
What's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem?
Someone killed my parents.
Pardon me?
Someone killed my parents.
What? Who? Are they still there?
Yes.
The people...
No.
Were they shot?
Hey, man, too.
Were they shot?
Yes.
They were shot?
Yes.
102, 102, response, 722 North Elmore.
What happened? Hey, stay down,
I have a hysterical person on. We're trying to get screened further. Other units responding. Is the person still there?
What happened? We have units around. What happened? Who Who shot who?
I don't hear anything. I just came home.
You came home and found who shot?
My mom and dad.
You know if they're still in the house, the people that did the shooting.
Get away from him.
Okay. Hey, let me talk to Erik. Who is the person that was shot?
My mom and my dad.
Your mom and dad?
My mom and my dad.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, we're on our way over there with the ambulance.
Okay, I gotta go.
Okay.
The public saw two terrified sons. The police saw something else. Two young men who were either traumatized or rehearsed. But no one, not the media, not the investigators, could have imagined what would come next. The behavior, the spending, the unraveling. In the days that followed the murders, the Menendez brothers played the part of grieving sons. They cried at the funeral, they gave tearful interviews, and for a while the police believed them. With no forced entry, no murder weapons recovered, and rumors of José's mob ties floating around Hollywood, detectives entertained the idea of a professional hit. The case stalled, but Lyle and Erik didn't. Just weeks after the murders, the brothers went on a spending spree, burning through their inheritance with shocking speed. Lyle bought a $64,000 Porsche. Erik hired a tennis coach and traveled the country. They ate at high-end restaurants, bought Rolexes, designer clothes, even invested in a restaurant. They moved out of their family's mansion and into penthouse apartments in Marina del Rey. They even made an appearance on the now infamous Mark Jackson NBA Hoops card. In just 6 months, they had spent over $700,000 of their parents' estate. Their explanation? They were just trying to honor their father's legacy by living boldly. But lavish lifestyles raised red flags. Investigators circled back to the brothers and began to notice cracks. Lyle was arrogant, dismissive in interviews. Erik was nervous, erratic, and cracking under pressure. Then came the bombshell. Erik began seeing a Beverly Hills psychologist, Dr. Jerome Oziel. During one of the sessions, overwhelmed with guilt, Erik confessed to the murders and said that Lyle had pulled the trigger first. Fearing for his life, Dr. Oziel told his mistress about the confession. When their relationship soured, she went to the police, and just like that, the truth was out. On March 8, 1990, Lyle Menendez was arrested at the family's Beverly Hills mansion. Erik, who was playing a tennis tournament in Israel, flew home and surrendered days later. The Golden Boys of Beverly Hills were now accused of executing their own parents, and America was about to watch every second of what came next. By the early 1990s, the Menendez case wasn't just a murder trial, it was a national obsession. Broadcast live on court TV, it became one of the first criminal cases in American history to turn into must-watch television. Lyle and Erik Menendez didn't deny killing their parents. Instead, they claimed they acted as self-defense, the end result of years of abuse and control at the hands of their father, José. Erik testified that both he and Lyle had been sexually abused by their father from a young age. He claimed that José was a sadistic, manipulative man who created a household filled with fear, secrecy, and silence. Their mother, Kitty, they say, knew and did nothing. The defense painted the murders as a final, desperate attempt at an escape, a killing born not of greed, but of trauma. The prosecution saw something very different. They argued it was all about money. An execution planned to secure a multi-million-dollar inheritance. They pointed to the brothers' spending spree, their cool behavior and methodical nature of the killings. In their eyes, Erik and Lyle weren't victims. They were liars, calculated murderers, who were only sorry when they got caught. The nation was divided. The jury, deadlocked. The first trial ended in a hung jury. Mistrials for both of the brothers in 1994, but the second trial would be different. In the second trial, the judge barred cameras, limited testimonies about the alleged abuse, and stripped the defense of its emotional narrative. This time the story wasn't about drama, it was about the murders. In 1996, Lyle and Erik Menendez were both found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The Menendez brothers disappeared behind bars, but the debate never stopped. Were they monsters or broken sons who snapped? During the second Menendez trial, much of the brothers' abuse testimony was silenced. The judge ruled that the emotional weight of their claims had clouded the first trial, and this time he wanted a clean legal narrative. No camera, no therapy records, no deeper context. But in doing so, something else was buried. The truth. Or at least the part that suggested that Lyle and Erik Menendez weren't just cold-blooded killers, they were also the victims. In the years since the trial, new information has emerged. Letters Erik wrote to his cousins before the murders describing the graphic, repeated abuse. Relatives have come forward saying they suspected something was deeply wrong in that house, and classmates recalled brothers often behaved like kids hiding something dark. Psychologists reviewing the case today say the signs were there all along. Patterns of grooming, emotional instability, and classic post-trauma behavior. It doesn't excuse what they did, but it does complicate the narrative. The brothers have now spent more than 30 years behind bars, and in 2023, something changed. A bill passed in California, Senate Bill 567, mandated judges must consider childhood trauma and abuse when handing down harsh sentences. Under this new law, both Erik and Lyle Menendez were granted resentencing hearings. For the first time since 1996, a court is asked to reconsider the punishment through a new lens, one that finally includes everything they were forbidden to say in the second trial. If successful, this hearing could shorten their sentence, or even open the door to parole eligibility. That doesn't mean that freedom is granted, but for the first time in decades, it is a possibility. They were killers, but maybe they were also casualties of their father's control, a mother's silence, and a justice system that, for a long time, didn't want to hear the full story. There's no question that Lyle and Erik committed a horrific crime. They murdered their parents in cold blood, and for that, they deserve to be held accountable. Justice has to be served. But I believe that sentencing them to life without the possibility of parole for something they did at the age of 18 and 21, especially under the extreme shadows of abuse, is a punishment that lacks compassion and context. The court painted them as monsters, but I see something different. I see two boys, just barely men, raised in a home without safety, robbed of their innocence, and manipulated by the very people who were supposed to protect them. I believe prison should be more than just a punishment. It should be about rehabilitation. And the sentence should reflect the likelihood of someone to reoffend. After more than 30 years behind bars, it's hard to believe that the Menendez brothers, now in their 50s, pose any real threat to society. In a world where Gypsy Rose Blanchard, another high-profile case involving years of abuse, can walk free and start a new chapter of her life, it's worth asking, why not them? They were punished. They served their time. But maybe, just maybe, it's time to reconsider what justice really means. In the past week, the hearing took place, and the Menendez brothers took one step closer to gaining their freedom. Their sentences have been changed from life in prison to 50 years to life in prison, which doesn't sound like much, but this does gain them the chance of parole for the first time since they were sent to prison. The Menendez case is a story that still divides opinion. Was it cold-blooded murder, or a tragic consequence of unchecked abuse and silence? No matter where you stand, one thing is clear. This wasn't just a crime story. It was a family tragedy, a cautionary tale, and a haunting reminder of how far desperation can push a person when there's no one left to trust. If you found the story compelling, or you find yourself fascinated in the darkest corners of human experience, then you're in the right place. This is just one of the many stories that we explore here, where fact and fear meet, and the truth is often more chilling than fiction. I'm Rob, and this has been my series, Far From Fiction. Don't forget to like the video and leave a comment on your thoughts, and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next story that'll keep you up at night. Also, this Friday, I'll be sharing the finale of my original sci-fi thriller story, Astral. We've experienced the first 7 chapters over the past 2 months, and this Friday, we witnessed the shocking and thrilling conclusion. Make sure to catch up with the entire series on my channel, following the Astral playlist, and then check back in Friday night for the grand finale. And as always, thank you for spending a little bit of your evening here with me.